thank you for joining me in another How to Draw video. This time I'm working on a sketch I did on location at HaBima Theater, which is a large theater here in Tel Aviv, in Israel. So first, going over the sketch I did there using pen. Basically, I did the sketch over there and the rest I'm doing at my house. So the results, I'm kind of going at it by memory, so hopefully I'll get the colors right and everything, but I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. So what we have here are the three main circles in the center. This is sort of a statue. They look like three coins, actually, and they are built one on top of the other. And surrounding it, there's a square and some buildings. The building on the left is the actual theater building. And on the left, we also have this lane of trees. And on the right, again, as I said, some buildings. And you'll notice this is a one-point perspective. I have a longer video on perspective. I'm not going to delve deep into it on this one. But as you can see, all the lines on the floor, the straight lines, sort of converge to the same point, which is somewhere above the buildings that are in the center. This means that they are all basically parallel in reality, but on paper, to portray that, we're using lines that converge to one point, which is why it's called one-point perspective. Now what you'll see me do is mix the blue color that I'll use for the skies using pan-based watercolors. The downside of using such type of watercolors is that it can be quite a challenge, or at least a bit time-consuming to mix the colors, because it's hard to get a large quantity of the actual color. Unlike tube-based watercolors that are a bit easier to mix with. So now I'm painting the skies using the blue I just mixed. On second thought, I could have used a lighter tone of blue, but it still works, and when it dries it'll be a little lighter. Now, in order to, the way I painted this part was wet on dry, so I didn't wet the paper before applying the color. Many times, if you want to get a clear surface, sort of very smooth one, it's better to wet the paper and then color into the wet, and the color sort of spreads on its own. This time I didn't do that. I just made the color very, very wet and then applied it. Both methods can work. For this one, this is what I chose. Now what I'm doing is mixing the colors for the sort of statue in the center. I'm using dark red together with some brown and black. And I will now paint the surface of the coins. Working on from the center to the outside of the coins. I just added some blue to the top part of the bottommost coin. It gives it some interest, and this is how I remember it was in the scene. Now I'm mixing a bit of a darker tone just for the sides of them, just to give that popping three-dimensional effect. This is done while the layer is still wet. I will come all over it again with another layer of paint. This is just for the initial base layer. Now I'm mixing some yellow and black to create this sort of a beige tone, very light. I'll even add some white, and this will be the base tone for everything that's basically not the sky and the sculpture. Yeah, statue is wrong. I should have used sculpture instead. So everything that's not the sculpture or the skies is going to be beige, and on top of that I'll add the rest of the colors. So I need large quantities of color for that again, and as you'll notice, I'm kind of struggling with it. The color sort of ran out, and now I need to mix some new color. The tone isn't exactly the same, but I will sort of blend it together so that it doesn't look good. So that it does look good, so that it looks bad. What I like about watercolors, though, is that you don't have to really be super accurate with the tones, and you can sort of get similar tones, and it'll actually make it more lively, I think, and can even make it more interesting. Right now, I'm mixing the color for the tree trunks, which I'll indicate. You'll notice that their tone, their brown, is sort of mixing into the leafy part, which is okay. I did that deliberately, although I'll usually not do that. I'll let the leafy part dry before doing that. But this time I thought the color wasn't interesting enough, so I just let the brown work its way into it. Which is also what I like about watercolors. They're very fluid. Now I'm adding a darker layer for the sculpture in the center. I'm using basically the same tone, just added more black. So it's red, some brown, and black, but the black is more dominant in this specific tone. And I'm using the little bit of color that I still have on my brush to sort of create a texture for the sculpture because it wasn't a smooth surface. So I used the brush when it was dry to do that. And now I'm mixing some color for the shadow of the sculpture. It's going to be three round shapes that represent the shadow, and I will blend them in. On second thought, actually, I should have just left them the way they were, but whatever. I blended them into the ground. Next, I'm mixing another color while clearing my brush to create a second layer for the trees. Now, because I said it wasn't interesting enough, the green, it's sort of bland. I'm adding an orange tone to it, sort of orange greenish, which makes it more interesting. And if I remember correctly, here are some browns. If I remember correctly, the trees were actually sort of yellow-green, so it suits that. And now there are some parts of the buildings that are more shadowed, more, like, let's say, darker. I'm doing this darker layer of beige over their fronts, just to give it some three-dimensionality. As I said, I don't remember the exact colors and I didn't take a picture, so the colors may be off here, but still interesting to see the results. And next, what I'm going to do is add some of the windows. There are some blues here, and you'll notice that when I apply too much color, I go back with a dry brush and sort of just slightly touch the surface. And this picks up some of the blue color. You saw me do it just now. It sort of picks up the excess color and helps make it less soak. Adding some details to the ground, just to indicate that it's a surface. You can see my face there for a second. Now I'm adding a second layer of brown to the tree trunks, because they aren't visible enough, and you can see how I added some trunks in between the leaves where they are visible, which is a nice effect to get. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Watercolors can be a challenge. Hopefully you learned something new from this video. I'll be posting a lot more of watercolor videos in the near future. If you enjoyed this one and you want to get updates for the next ones, please subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you soon.